call the special board meeting of Thursday, April 23rd, 2013 to order. First order of business will be invocation. I'd ask Alderman Barnhill to give that, and then I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. So everybody please stand.
Would you bow with me, please? Heavenly Father, we come to you in prayer tonight. Thank you for this country, this nation, and for all the blessings that you provide for us. We ask that you, in the times that we're in now, be with the people in Boston, be with the people in Texas who are going through the tragedies that they're going through. Be with each of the families and comfort them as only you can. We ask that you be with each of us tonight as we as alderman and mayor make decisions that ultimately affect the direction in which the city will go. Give us spiritual wisdom and guidance. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4 is grievances or statements from citizens for items that are not on the agenda. Does anyone want to address this body? Seeing no one, we'll move on to item 5, communication from Williamson County Mayor and Williamson County Commissioners. I don't see anybody here. We'll move on to item 6, approval of minutes from April 2nd, 2013 special work session, April 9th, 2013 work session, and April 9th, 2013 Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got it? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next, we're going to have 3 different recognitions tonight. This is an important time for the city to be able to offer special recognition to various groups and organizations, and tonight we're recognizing that it's Building Safety Month. We're also recognizing that it's Historic Preservation Month, and also that May the 5th through the 11th will be Municipal Clerks Week. So keep those in mind going forward, and appreciate the hard work that all those organizations do for our community and for us as a city organization. Any miscellaneous reports? Alderman Skinner, you can be depended on.
Mr. Mayor, since there will be no Civil War Roundtable the second Sunday of May, because that's Mother's Day, and we feel it's more important for you to be with your mothers or remember your mothers, and we'll see you all in June.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alderman
Main
Glenn.
Street Festival. You almost have to live under a rock to not know what's coming. But 30th year of the Main Street Festival, Saturday, opens at 10. Is that correct, Mary?
Rain starts at 10:30.
Yeah. And then Sunday is noon to 6, and the carnival has moved to First Avenue. So it is free to the public, but bring lots of spending money.
Good. Any other miscellaneous reports? We'll move on to the consent agenda then. All items under the consent agenda are deemed to be non-controversial and routine in nature by the governing body, and they will be approved as recommended by committee or staff by one motion of the governing body. And tonight we're considering items 16 through 28.
Can I move to pull item number 26, please?
17,
17,
26,
23,
And 16.
so that's what?
so let me review those. 16, 17, 23, and 26. Did I get that correct?
And 20,
Yes,
Is that
What
correct?
was called out?
I thought another, is that it?
that's it that I heard.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the consent agenda and exclude those items?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 10, old business. This is a public hearing, consideration ordinance 2013-08, an ordinance to rezone 10.03 acres from agricultural to estate residential for the property located at 252 Spencer Creek Road. Would anyone like to address this body in the public hearing? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I heard the motion, I didn't, who gave the second?
And
Alderman Peterson, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 11, consideration resolution 2013-25, resolution to authorize staff to enter into contract negotiations with selected architect for the design of the prototypical fire stations.
Move for approval.
Second.
Appropriate motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 12, consideration of resolution 2013-28, a resolution approving the annual CDBG action plan for 2013-14 and authorizing a request for housing and urban development CDBG program funds.
Move for approval.
Second.
Appropriate motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 13, consideration interlocal agreement with the Williamson County Government, City of Franklin contract number 2013-0043 for transferring the billing and collection of property taxes to the Williamson County trustee. And I would request that if someone does make the motion, that they stipulate that staff has the opportunity to do some minor textual changes.
City administrator and city attorney. Final approval.
I move for approval
With those
with
stipulations.
those stipulations.
Thank
Second.
you.
City attorney and city administrator.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 14, consider authorizing the immediate issuance of a purchase order to Stringfellow Incorporated of Nashville for 2 side-loading refuse collection trucks for a total cost of $516,754 with delivery and payment scheduled for after July the 1st, 2013.
So move.
Appropriate motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 15, consideration of mayor's nomination to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'd like to recommend Joel Tomlin III. Do we need a motion on that? I need a
Move for
mo.
approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 16, consideration ordinance 2013-01, an ordinance to amend Title 12, Chapter 1, Section 107 of the Franklin Municipal Code relating to contractor security deposits to ensure restoration of damaged city streets, sidewalks, landscaping, stormwater drainage improvements, and other approved and accepted infrastructure associated with construction activity. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
second.
Appropriate motion second. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, the reason I asked for this to be pulled so that we could have some discussion, and clarification by staff, what this does is when a subdivision is 90% finished, we go ahead and go ahead and top coat the street to protect it, and that's with the blessing of the street department that it's appropriate and not damaged and so forth. But what I'm worried about is what happens to those other 10%, and I understand then that goes to a contractor security deposit that covers individual lots. But 10% in a large subdivision can be a significant number of homes. And you've still got to expect there's going to be heavy traffic, heavy trucks on what we have then completed as far as the road. I want to make sure that the city's not going to be the one that has to come back in and repave the top coat after those 10% are completed. Now, what I understand is that they'll have to get this contractor's bond on each lot. But is there a timetable after, is it just at the certificate of occupancy for each lot? Is there a distance from those lots within the subdivision? Or is there a time frame that you can still use that security deposit after those approvals for those individual units are done.
I don't know who's
So-
going to answer this, but first of all, it's not, we no longer require 90% of the lots to be developed before we put the top coat on. Because there's been, the downturn, then there are streets in subdivisions where the construction that they have done on the road is starting to deteriorate before the 90% build out. And so we've gone, the streets department now, upon, examination of the streets, can go on the developer can go on and put the top coat on. So that means that there are more lots out there. It's not just 10%, even though, as you say, in many subdivisions, 10% would be a large number of lots. But because the final topping is going on before many of the lots have not been developed, then that is part of the reason for this lot bond, so that anybody who is constructing after the top coating has gone on is going to have to post a bond themselves there. So that, I'm sure somebody else probably knows more about it than I do, but I don't see anybody here.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'd like to have Assistant City Administrator Vernon Girth address it. It's a great question. We want to make sure we're protecting the infrastructure in our neighborhoods, and we think we're doing that overall with what we've got here. But let me take a minute and let Vernon talk you through the impact and where this puts us.
Thank you, and good evening. Alderman Peterson is correct about the changes that were recently made, and maybe it's best for me to start what existed prior, is that the city of Franklin had not allowed the final topping of asphalt to be placed in subdivisions until 90% of the lots, developable lots, were built upon. And what we were finding with the settling of the economy is that the base and the subcoat of asphalt was starting to deteriorate after 4 to 5 years. So what we worked with our street department is that when that situation starts to occur, that will allow the final lift to be put in place. Now, the surety deposit, the performance surety, once performance is done, the final lift is installed, can be transferred to a maintenance obligation. And that maintenance obligation will need to stay in place for a minimum of 1 year after 90% of the lots are built. But once the final lift is put in place, we'll start obtaining a contractor security deposit, some people call those lot bonds, to ensure that the builder on that particular lot is not damaging either the final lift, the curb gutter, any type of street trees or landscaping that's in the greenway or the sidewalk, or any type of infrastructure, structures that are in the curb or in the street. So we believe that we're definitely have the assurances in place to make sure that a contractor that's building on a lot, once the final lift is installed, doesn't do damage to it. And this holds true until the final certificate of occupancy permit will be issued. Not a temporary, because somebody's moved in the house, but the landscaping isn't done, because sometimes a landscaping crew will come and dump gravel and mulch on the pavement and then damage the pavement. It's after the grass is growing, the sod is installed, and that site is completely done for occupancy. So hopefully that provides the assurances to the city that any damages will be covered by that contractor security deposit. And I also should mention that the contractor security deposit, the language in this ordinance, provides more specificity to existing parcels. That, for instance, if somebody's installing an in-ground swimming pool, that requires significant excavation and equipment to come onto a property, that we're going to collect the security deposit because the potential for damage is there with excavating equipment and concrete trucks that are coming in to pour an in-ground pool perhaps. So we've done a better job defining what that ordinance pertains to, the different types of sureties, and had worked with the design professionals and developers group to put that in place. Finally, I will say that what we try to do is not to make rules up for those professionals, contractors, skilled trades that do the right thing. Unfortunately, the contractor security deposit is to protect the city for those professionals that don't do the right thing.
And ultimately, our streets department is examining that and making that call about when it's appropriate to put that final lift in place. And I think that's really the important thing here too, is that we're not tied to an artificial trigger that might cause that infrastructure to deteriorate and have other problems. So I think we're putting a little more flexibility, but we still are inspecting and making the right call about when that appropriate time is to put that final lift of asphalt in place.
Further comments, discussion, ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, passes unanimously. Item number 17, consideration of resolution 2013-23, a resolution funding the Hunters Bend Elementary Safe Routes to School project and approval of TDOT locally managed Safe Routes to School agreement number 120296. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Appropriate motion second. Discussion.
No, go ahead. Well, the reason that I was asking about this was, you know, whenever the Safe Routes to School grant was proposed to the city, the resolution stated that the city would not outlay any funds for match and would be reimbursed for all project costs. And that turns out not to be the case. I mean, I still think it's a worthy project, but, you know, we were under the impression that $200,000 would cover everything, and now we found, what, $86,000 that the city is going to have to pay for it. And I'd just like to hear something further about that.
Let me have Paul Holzen, our engineering director, come up and discuss it. We did talk about this at Capital Investment Committee a little bit as well, but there were some additional costs that are going to be required in the project that are beyond what the grant scope was able to cover. But let's have Paul walk you through it.
Basically, whenever we brought the grant forward to begin with, they did do a cost estimate, and when we submitted for the grant opportunity, and it came out to be around $200,000. When we got the TDOT contract back, we went ahead and, as engineering started to create this project, we started looking at it more critically, and that's when we recognized that there was going to be additional costs, and we thought it was appropriate to bring forward this resolution to see if there was still direction from the board, to see if they still wanted to move forward with it, knowing that there's an additional $86,000 that the city would be responsible for.
Paul, is there a specific cost component that you would identify related to this or requirement that we had to deal with in the project?
Yeah, I guess what I would say is that the design and CEI was originally thought to be part of the grant opportunity. That's a cost that we're going to have to pay out of our own pocket. That's for the design of it and the construction administration. And then also the other item that really stood out was the wall estimate. The rehabilitation of the wall associated with the tunnel was underestimated significantly, and in comparing that to recent projects, McEwen Phase 3, the wall we put out there, significantly increased that cost. So essentially, we just reevaluated the cost estimate, which identified this as a potential problem. So prior to signing the TDOT contract and moving forward with it, we thought it was appropriate to bring it to the board's attention at this point.
Alderman Martin.
If I remember correctly, before this grant was ever received, we as a board agreed to take care of that tunnel. And then the grant came through. Do you remember that, Paul?
Yeah, that is correct. We agreed to take care of maintenance of the tunnel. The walls were specifically excluded from that agreement. However, one of the major problems that we're having out there is that rock wall is very unstable. People are moving rocks, pushing rocks, or falling off onto the tunnel, onto the trail, and it's creating a safety problem. And that's why we feel it's important to move forward with a project. And there were a few options that were outlined here, one of them being possibly to approach the homeowner association to see if they're willing to help contribute to the rehab of the wall. But ultimately, staff does feel that this project should move forward.
And this turns into essentially a 70-30 grant at the end of the day. When you look at 86,000 versus 286,000, we can pursue some other funding opportunities with the homeowners association if possible. Don't know what that'll generate, but we can make that inquiry. But I think the grant funds that were available were secured. I don't know that there's any opportunity to get more grant funds. We're just going to have to look at the project in this new configuration, I guess.
Correct. And with the grant, we feel that we should move forward with a project to try to resolve this as we have funding available.
Alderman Berger.
Yeah, that was one of my questions too. So, do we have a deadline to meet this grant?
There is generally a deadline. It's typically for these type of TDOT grants are 4 years. They want to see progress and move into a construction project, but there's no immediate deadline, immediate rush.
Okay.
But
And is there also a deadline for accepting this?
no, as long as we can show them that we're moving forward with the
Okay, so
project,
it's
that's
not-
what they want to know. If we're not going to move forward with it, they in turn want to award it to another
Okay.
opportunity.
So this is not critical. If we needed to not vote on this tonight, we could still do this. I mean,
Correct.
It's not critical. Yeah, that additional cost was something I just was stumped on. So we're getting state and federal funds in this?
Yes, state or federal. I'm not sure which it is,
Well,
but
It's probably
It wasn't
federal dollars
clear.
coming through
Federal.
the state, I
Yeah,
believe.
probably.
TDOT
The other thing is the safe route and school requirements on page 6. I didn't understand this at all. It said, agency will provide pre- and post-parent surveys and student tally sheets for each school. Parent surveys and school tally sheets are to be completed and returned this agreement. What surveys are they talking about? What do they want the kids and the parents to say in these surveys? I mean, what is
it's
this
just
about?
part of the federal guidelines. They're looking for feedback on whether the project was beneficial, the overall program that they're running at the federal level.
I think they also document, I've done one of these a long time ago, but I think it documents the use, that it was actually utilized by the community in the way envisioned.
Oh, so they're
Sometimes
using
they're
it.
newer, this is a rehab of an existing, but
maybe so.
sometimes they want to prove that it actually got used by kids going to school and moving about as originally anticipated.
Yeah, that's
Okay. I don't know.
Alderman Peterson.
I guess one of my thoughts was, would these additional funds have been covered through the grant had we requested them?
probably not, because they didn't even award the full amount that we requested. I believe they were like $8,000 shy from the original request of what was actually submitted. There's a possibility. It's unknown at this time, but I it's hard to say.
Whose ward is this in?
It's in Dana's.
Dana's?
Yeah. And Dana spoke at
That's right.
CIP. We had a half a discussion
be here,
about this
really.
during our CIP discussion on this item. And as we looked at, the access road to, the eastern flank, this is additional costs associated with federal and state dollars that we have to, as you read, TDOT will require design. So a lot of times when we receive these grants, and I think Alderman Berger, you mentioned several times that there's attachments to this. And this is one of those attachments, is that we have to elevate to a certain level of bringing in more designs or different type of designs. I think it's to be expected as we go forward.
I guess my concern was that since it said it was originally given to us in the resolution, that the city would not be required to even have a match. That it was, I think the comment on this was in the original resolution that it would not be, there would be no money from the city. And so I guess it's
that's a shocker.
That's right, the shock. I put it that way, not to say
Yeah.
that I couldn't support this, but I'm just saying that it was a big surprise.
And Dana, in his absence, he can speak for himself if he comes back to the, is he?
But then at the time
Okay.
that we voted to do this, there was no grant. So it was gonna cost us something anyway.
Well, no, we submitted this
At the
at a
same time.
cost higher than what we got the grant for, but we did submit it anticipating that we would, if we were successful, we'd be able to do it for the grant amount, or at least close to that grant amount. So
That was before we voted to
we
do
we
it?
were doing, we submitted the grant, hoping to receive the grant and move forward with the project. We were, the grant matched up with the opportunity. We weren't doing the project originally. We looked at the grant opportunity and moved forward with it from there, I believe.
That's correct. And some of the other assumptions that were made was that we were going to do the design, the construction management in-house, and being that it's through TDOT local programs, they don't actually allow us to do that. We have to have a TDOT pre-qualified or consultant handle that for us, which helped add to some of this cost.
So we'll know that from now on.
Yeah.
I don't think we're questioning the need, right? We're questioning the additional money that we did not anticipate.
Yeah.
Because I think, based on the Ward Alderman conversation at the CIP, is that this tunnel is used, by
Right.
the school children
I
and
think that-
citizens.
yeah, I think
So
that.
the need to do this is there. It just, I think we may be questioning, how did we not anticipate this additional cost?
Well, I'm a little,
Sorry, the law office never closes.
I was just going to say, I'm a little concerned about the stability of the wall as well. But we might want to bring Dana up to speed on this discussion. And we had talked about maintaining that tunnel at that time,
I think,
but we have an overrun on this
Well,
bit.
we do, but that's only because we're being confronted with additional requirements from the state.
yeah.
And, I mean, the work's got to be done. We're not going to be able to not do it. It's not discretionary.
Yeah. That's pretty much what we said.
Okay?
Well, question. Yeah, I mean, we could not do it. I mean, we don't have to accept it, but then, as you said, we'd have to go find the funds somewhere else.
Correct.
And then we'd have to start over again. We wouldn't know what kind of funds we might find for it or might not. And the thing that concerns me here is the stability of the wall.
And that's what concerns us as well. We're
You know,
recommending
with
moving forward with the
children, and
project
so-
because of the wall.
I feel like our hands are
I'm not sure
sort of
that the
tied.
wall is not stable. I think it's that the wall is not a construction method that would be approved today by the state. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't, I'm not sure that we're trying to fix a dangerous situation so much as bring the thing to within compliance.
Some of the concerns that the Parks Department's brought to our attention is that kids are pushing the rocks, some rocks are falling. Their fear is that a rock is going to fall on someone coming in and out of the tunnel. Someone may be up on top of it pushing it, but it's stable, to answer
I
that
mean,
question.
we're talking about boulders.
They're big.
I mean, these were placed by machinery. These are not stacked stone. But be that as it may, the work needs to be done, and we've undertaken to do it.
I think the other thing to just consider is, would you be able to deliver this project at $86,000? And I don't think there's any way you could. That, we do get the benefit at the end of the day of this grant to complete a project at a lower local cost than we would do if we just did it on our own. It might not cost us $280,000 if we just did it on our own, but it would sure cost us more than $86,000, I guess is what I'm trying to say from looking at the project overall.
Absolutely.
Ready to vote?
Good point.
Yes.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 23, consideration crosswalk maintenance agreement for a proposed paver crosswalk to be installed on Franklin Green Parkway. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Appropriate motion, second. Discussion. Alderman Berger.
Okay, this has options here, and option one, of course, is nothing, none. Then the annual maintenance cost would be estimated at an average of $900 per year performed by the Streets Department. So how is that Franklin Green Homeowners Association, Joe, doesn't maintain this? Is this just actually, or David, whoever's going to answer this?
The agreement's
street?
set up to where the
Yeah.
homeowner association will be
Will,
maintaining.
yeah.
They'll be installing and maintaining. This is a specialty type crosswalk that we don't typically have. So when a homeowner association or a development wants to do it, then we put it back on them to pay for it and then do the maintenance of it. The option you're talking about is, if you don't want to do this and then allow them to do it, then it's going to cost us about $900 a year to maintain it once it's put in. It's not that we're voting on option, the recommendation is option one. Is the way the contract or the way the agreement is
All right,
written
so
such
that's-
that the
all right.
homeowner association will do the construction or pay for the construction and the maintenance of the crosswalk.
All right, just want to make sure that was clear, because I was unclear on that. Thank you.
Ready to
All
vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 26, consideration of sale of surplus property located at 112 Bridge Street, commonly known as the old jail, City of Franklin, contract 2013-33. Is there a motion?
So move.
Appropriate motion?
Second.
Second. Discussion.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Blanton.
I just pulled this for clarification. I know we're really diligent about making sure that we do things the right way with our, we can go back to the bank property, or post office, excuse me, just to make sure that, that we put it out there, and this one's being handled a little bit differently. And I've gotten some pushback from community people that have said, well, I'll pay more than that for that, the property's worth that alone. And while I do understand why we're doing this, I want to make sure that Joe Public understands why we're doing this, so that we as a city, number one, are being forthcoming and also not making it seem like we're doing favors for an entity that we work closely with. So, Eric, I'll just ask for you, I just want us to go on the record to explain why this is happening the way it's happening. And so, I'm not going to be redundant. Go for it.
Let me just walk through it a little bit in terms of how we got to where we are and the unique circumstances around this project. First of all, the city ordinance does provide for the city to dispose of surplus property in a number of different ways, but specifically allows you to do a direct arrangement for property that is $25,000 or less in value, or where there are unique circumstances that the board judges that such a process might be impractical overall. So I'm just sort of paraphrasing that. So that's the context that this is in. And there are a number of things to look at. This property was declared surplus back in 2009. In 2010, a formal request for proposal process moved forward with advertisement and discussion in front of the board, much like what we did with 5 Points in some ways. In that case, we got one proposal. It was limited in scope in that the one known use was to use the old jail, which has now been demolished post-flood, as a storage area, and there was some vague idea of what might happen with the rest of the property, but no true vision or demonstrated capability to deliver on that. And that entity actually ended up going out of business in their operation within a year of that proposal. So the board, I think, wisely judged that's not a good way forward, and there really isn't an option, viable option to go forward where you look at it just as a property, because you've got the old jail, which is a contributing structure in the historic district. So you've really got to look at a solution that brings that property up to a usable standard and maintains it as a historically significant building. And so there's not an option that is viable that say that building would go away, because the value is placed on it as a structure. And so that's another one of the unique circumstances, I think, as you look at it. It is in a state of great disrepair. I think anybody who has maybe made one of those offers has probably not been inside of it, because it's got some real challenges. and I don't think you could pay Brad Wilson enough to go back in it, to tell you the truth. But it does have its challenges, and I think it's at least a $500,000 expenditure to get it to a place that you would go into to use as at a very, very low level, much less turn it into a community asset in a place that is an active, vibrant part of the community. And so I think that's a big part of it and a big part of the consideration here. And I think what you've got is a proposal that came to you in February of this year that said, we're an organization with a track record of the community of investing and preserving, and we want to take on this challenge. And I think you look at the both the capacity and the commitment of an organization that's willing to do that, and this is easily a $1.5 million project. It's not about the $25,000 that starts this process. It's about the $1.5 million or more that it's going to take to get it to a state that it'll be something that the whole community is proud of and will be part of revitalizing that part of downtown, which I think is the charge here and the challenge here. It's not just about a simple transaction. And the way I look at it too is over the last year, we've taken an aggressive stance at looking at restoring, preserving, updating, revitalizing 3 historic properties that the city owns. At Harlansdale, we've partnered with the state with grant money. We've invested our own money from hotel motel tax funds, and we're building a partnership with Friends of Franklin Parks to do some enhancements out there. If you look at the request for proposal process that generated First Bank's investment of $3 to $3.5 million to restore and change the use, but preserve the quality and historic character of the 5 Points Post Office building. And now you look at the old jail as another chapter in that. And so you add those numbers up, you're somewhere, I don't know, $6, $7, $8 million worth of investment that we have worked to leverage that has not involved a huge commitment of city tax dollars and those transactions, but involve us partnering with other entities, leveraging those assets, and then working with others that have a vision that's consistent with ours in terms of turning them into long-term assets that still are true to the historic character of those buildings and of our community. So I think that's what we've worked on. That's the kind of creative partnership we've tried to build here. I applaud the Heritage Foundation for their courage for stepping up in this building, and I look forward to seeing what this can become. We all saw what happened at the Franklin Theater. This is another chapter in that same kind of story in our downtown. So I think that's where we are. I think that's the exciting opportunity that's before us. And I appreciate the opportunity to sort of articulate that, because I don't want there to be a misunderstanding of what we're doing and how we're working together.
Well, and I think we come from a board situation where we know things that general public doesn't or maybe didn't pay attention when we talked about it. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a big deal, and I'm just glad you covered that very thoroughly. So I think that it's a great thing. So thank you, Eric.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Do we have matters to consider in executive session?
We do have a brief item. It'll be largely of a briefing nature, so I don't expect there to be action, but we will need to do that and then come back and adjourn.
Motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second. From second. All in favor?
We're adjourning. Shut her down. We're adjourning. I'll make a motion.
How are you?
Pearl will second it.
Yeah, we done.
Okay.
I'll make the motion. Pearl will second it. Pearl, you second it. I'll make the
Are there any items to consider out of executive session? If not, I look for a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second. Don't wait, Pearl.
Discussion, all in favor say aye.
I was doing that so Linda would have it on the